All right, welcome. So today we're gonna be making some wine from fresh grapes from our vineyard. And when I say our vineyard, it's not this giant vineyard. We have like 3 lines of vineyard, there's probably 30 plants, 35. And only 3 of them are muscats, which we're gonna use to make Moscato, which is a sweet white wine. So with 3 plants, we'll show you how much you can actually get. We usually get about 15 bottles a season out of each batch, so hopefully we'll get more this year. Each year we get a little bit more production. First I want to go over the equipment that we're going to use, and you can do whatever you want, you do you. This is kind of what I've gathered over time, but with the same grapes, I've blended them in a blender, put them in a plastic bucket with a Camden tablet, which we'll talk about in a second, and some yeast, and let it sit for 2 weeks, put it into a glass carboy, let it sit for another month, and bottled it, and it actually turned out really, really well. So you don't have to have all this stuff. The very minimum, you have to have some sanitizer, some yeast, Camden tablets, a plastic bucket, and you could do another plastic bucket, but I'd recommend a glass carboy, and of course some bottles. But if you want to kind of upgrade a little bit, for your fermenter, your primary fermenter, I definitely would recommend something like this. It's a stainless steel Anvil 7-gallon fermenter. It's about $220. This thing is really nice, and I actually have a temperature gauge strip on here so I can keep track. I have other ways of keeping track also, but that's pretty key to have because it's actually on the fermenter itself. Glass carboy, at least 1, preferably 2, because this is going to be eventually going into here to start after the first couple weeks, and it's going to start clearing, and the sediment's going to start dropping after the main primary fermentation is done. And then you'd actually want to go into preferably a 3rd carboy to really clear it out before you bottle it. These are air stops, or airlocks, so that nothing gets into them, but the gases that are produced by the combination of the sugar and the yeast eating the sugar produces CO2 and alcohol, and the CO2 has to escape. So just leaving it open, stuff could get in there, fruit flies, yeast that you don't want, and ruin your batch. So this is called an airlock. Sanitizers. So Star San's a great sanitizer. It's 1 ounce per 5 gallons. So this goes a long ways. You use it, you don't have to rinse it, it's perfect. This is PBW, so this is more of a cleaning agent. So after your fermentation is done, you want to clean your stuff out. You can get these rings of sediment up here that kind of get a little tough to get off, especially when you're brewing beer. And this stuff takes it right off. It's also good for your beer lines too, in your kegs. Kegerator. A hydrometer. This will test the specific gravity, which is the weight of the beer compared to the weight of water being 1.000, and this is going to be heavier than that. So you're able to gauge where your specific gravity is when you first put the grapes in, and then as the yeast eats the sugar, it should lighten up, and then there's at a certain point, which we'll talk about later, you know that it's done. And you can also calculate how much alcohol content there is. With wine, it's usually around 13%. This is what's called a refractometer. I always have to think of that, refractometer. So this is perfect for when I'm going to look at my grapes and see if they're ready to go. I can take a little juice, put it right on top of this, slap this down. You look through it, through the sun, and you can see what the Brix scale is, and that's Brix or specific gravity. But mainly for the Brix in here, and ideally you'd want something like 26. That's what I'm looking for this year, is 26, because then you can actually it's a little high on the specific gravity, so you can add water to it. So if I only get 3 gallons out of this batch, I might be able to add another gallon or 2 gallons, and that's all going to be wine. If it's low, then I have to add sugar. So not only do I not get more wine, but I have to add something to it. I have to add just straight sugar to get the alcohol content up. So that's not ideal. So if you do need that, there's sugar. If you want to balance the acid, we have citric acid. These are the Camden tablets, also known as potassium or sodium metabisulfate. Also the bag of it that I just got to you, it's potassium metabisulfate. So this can be a little more accurate. Usually it's just a tab per 5 gallon batch, but I'm gonna actually be a little more specific and put exactly how much there is, it needs in it. Then you have pectic enzyme that's to increase the juice yields and prevent haze, and then yeast energizer. This is all stuff you don't have to have, but it all helps. Every little bit, every little piece of love you put into it's gonna make a better batch. This is yeast. This is a white wine yeast. Today's a white wine. It's a Moscato. This is, so like I said, I used to just put it in a blender and put it in a bucket. So the thing about that is it breaks the seed down, and you don't really want to break the seed down inside the grape, because if you do, it could add unwanted flavors, bitterness to the batch. So what this does is crushes the grape without crushing the seed. So it's gonna break the skin, allow the juice to come out, and it's gonna keep the seed from breaking and adding that bitterness and unwanted flavors. This was like about $210, so a little pricey, but worth it if you're gonna make multiple batches. This was $100, and then once all said and done, we move from this to this. Once you move it over, there's going to be a lot of leftover musk, which is the grape, and that broken grape's gonna have a lot of juice left in it, maybe a couple bottles even. So what you can do is get one of these. So this is 115. This is a juicer. So at that point, you're gonna put those grapes in here with a mesh so that the grapes don't come out the sides. And you're gonna dump all that leftover grape in here. You're gonna put these plates on here like this, and you're gonna crank this thing down with these pieces of wood and squeeze all that juice out, and all that juice is gonna come right out of this spigot right here, and it's gonna increase your yield, which is what we're really trying to do, right? Grow these grapes all year, take care of them, love them, fertilize them, and water them, and talk to them, and we wanna make sure we get plenty of yield out of it. So it's worthwhile. So another good item to have, again, not necessary. Okay, here's one of our Moscato grapes. As you can see, we have a few down here. We only have 3 Moscatos, so we're gonna harvest what we can. I think we'll still get a decent batch of it, which is gonna show you that it doesn't take much to make a batch of wine. We have some Cabernets, some Merlots, Zinfandels. We have a lot of table grapes. Not my idea, sore subject, but the kids like them. Anyway, let's take this off. And test a grape. So let's look at this. So you ideally want to test from different locations. These are facing the southwest, so these are gonna have more sunlight, more sugar content. So you'd want to test one here. You want to test one at the bottom, at the top, on the other side in the shade, to get a good average medium for what the specific gravity or the Brix is going to be. I've done that already. I think we're right around anywhere from 17 to 27. So I think we might be average around 24, 25, hopefully. Then we can actually get some good sugar content and add some water to the batch and make a bigger batch out of a small batch of grapes. So we'll take one. What we're looking for here, first of all, we're gonna take the juice, just squeeze it on there. This is the refractometer. Pop that down, a little press, and then we're going to take a look in here. I'll take a look first in the sunlight. This one is 23. So good, not great. Specific gravity is saying it's about it's over 1.095, which is what you'd want if you didn't want to add any water at all. So this you would actually add a little water too. So that's a good sign. I'll try to show you this before I do that, I'll show you that when you break the grape up and you're looking at the seed also. So the seed, you don't want green, you want a nice brown seed. That means it's ripe. That's a nice ripe seed right there. Grape seed, okay? Get rid of that. We'll switch you around here. There you go. Like I said, I think it was 23, 24 maybe. So that's how that works. Start with the blue line meets the white line. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and harvest these, and then we'll bring them back down. We'll rinse them, take them off the stems, remove any debris. We'll probably spray them with a little bit of potassium metabisulfite to just get rid of the natural yeasts, which you don't want because that'll add unwanted flavors or spoiling of the wine. So we're gonna use that. Okay, so here's our yield. September 3rd, 2023. This is 3 Muscat plants, Moscato. And this is Southern California, East County, San Diego, remote area, which is wine country. But I'm pretty proud of this so far. This is the best yield we've had. This is our 4th year producing Moscato grapes, and our 3rd batch. We had a bad year one year with some caterpillars, but we took care of that this year. So this is 30 pounds. 30 pounds. We have not destemmed it yet. So say 2 pounds in stems, 28 pounds, which is more than I was hoping for 18. So we definitely have a lot of grapes here. Hopefully a lot of juice, and hopefully the sugar content is just where we need it to be, so we can add a little more water and get it. We're aiming for 6 gallons. That's a 6-gallon Carboy that I showed you earlier. And we want that filled eventually to the top with just a few inches of airspace. We don't want a lot of air left in that Carboy. If we do have air left, we have to add some wine to it. So we finally destemmed everything. We lost 2 pounds, just like I was hoping for. So we ended up with 28 pounds of grapes, which is perfect. I think that's a good yield. So now we're gonna take these, rinse them in the strainer, and then from there we're going to put them in the fruit grinder, and it's gonna break apart the grapes, keep the seeds intact, and allow the juices to come out. We'll fill this up, and we'll show you that process right now. Grinder. That's ready for her next batch. Here's your next batch. And let's grind these in. So our final, initial specific gravity is 1.072. So bare minimum we want 0.085, which it's already a sweet wine. So I'm fine doing 1.085. So what we're gonna do is, we did a calculation, it's gonna be 13.52 ounces of sugar added. So unfortunately we're able to add water to it and increase the batch. It's a 3-gallon batch of must, which is gonna come down because there's a lot of debris in there from the grape skins. So hopefully we'll get 15 bottles out of it, which isn't bad. We can deal with that. So we'll go ahead and measure out 13.52 ounces. 13.55, it's close enough. So we're gonna add that in. That's the sugar. And then we're going to add our potassium metabisulfite, which we also do calculations on that. We're gonna need about a 1/4 teaspoon of that for the whole batch. So about a 1/4 teaspoon, a little over. And then we're gonna sanitize a spoon. We're gonna throw this back in. I don't waste that. So as you can see, a lot of musk, a lot of grape, a lot of juice too. And the juice is right there. It's all gonna be wine. So we're gonna let this sit for about 12 hours. And about an hour or two before, we're gonna put the enzyme in, pectine, or whatever it is. And then we'll add the yeast. Let it sit for 2 weeks. We'll probably stir it every day for the first couple days at least, maybe 3 or 4 days. And we'll revisit this in about 2 weeks, at which point we'll transfer it over to a secondary Carboy. Okay, so we've been fermenting for 2 weeks. Our specific gravity is now down to 0.996, which is exactly where we want it to be. So for this next process, remember we have 3 gallons pretty much exactly with the grape media. So we're gonna have probably less than 3 gallons of juice. So I can't use a 6-gallon carboy. I don't have a 3-gallon carboy, but I do have 1-gallon carboys. Now, so I have Airlocks more. So we're gonna fill them up one at a time and see how far we get. We'll get at least 2, I'm hoping, and then hopefully maybe 2.5. From that point, we're gonna add potassium sorbate and potassium metabisulfate to each one, and we'll calculate that. So we make sure we're getting the right amount of each one, and then we're gonna degas it. We're gonna stir each one for about 10 minutes to degas it. We'll talk more about that later. So for now, let's go ahead and pop this open. And we're gonna get our siphon, Auto-Siphon. Now again, this everything's been sanitized. I'm using the Auto-Siphon because at this point, I anticipate this port is probably very clogged. So we're gonna use the Auto-Siphon to help get all the juice out. You might not be able to see it completely. I can move it down for you here so you can see. Once we do that, we're also gonna add the Kisasol and the Chitosan to help drag everything down at the bottom. I'm gonna add that actually tomorrow. So you add the potassium sorbate and the potassium metabisulfite today, and then we're gonna let it sit for 24 hours, and then tomorrow is when we're going to add our clarifying agents, and then we'll let it sit for a few more weeks. That's it. So we'll barely get 2 gallons, which is fine actually. Wow. Okay, this is the Kirkland Sauvignon Blanc, Bordeaux from New Zealand. I'm going to be getting all this back. It's not like I'm wasting it. I'm just turning it into a different wine to blend. I have no problem doing this at all. Okay. Let's get a good one. I'll go ahead and finish that up. Okay, so the last video was on September 29th, and it is now December 6th. December 6th. So it's time to bottle. What the part that you missed that I didn't show was the next day I put the clarifier in, the Chitosan and Kisasol, and let that settle. After about 2 weeks, I actually purchased a 3-gallon carboy. I racked all 3 of those separate gallons into a 3-gallon carboy. Let it sit for another couple weeks, and then I actually wrapped that after it settled, racked it off the sediment from the bottom back into my 6.5 gallon or my 6-gallon carboy, and then right back into my cleaned my 3-gallon and went right back into my 3-gallon carboy, and it's been clarifying there ever since. And you'll see it turned out very clear. So it's time to bottle. 3 gallons is going to make exactly 15 bottles. What I've done for these bottles, most of these are fresh out of the box, so they're not dirty. A couple of them I had pre-used, but I rinsed them. And then before I bottle, I use TBW, which is an alkaline cleanser. And the nice thing about it is, with something like this, you can actually just use it as a sanitizer also, as opposed to using the Star San, which I also use for sanitizing. And the nice thing about it again is once you sanitize with it or clean with it, you can just pour it out and you don't even have to rinse these out. You just let them dry and they're ready to go. I've also taken 15 corks and put them in some Star San. That's 1 ounce per 5 gallons. And let that soak for, it's been about 20 minutes or so. I have this dryer. It's very simple, it's just a bucket. The bottles go upside down, and I can actually stack them on top, and I can get a total of 24 bottles drying at one time. And by drying, I mean just make sure the water's out of them, the liquid's completely out of them. So maybe 10 minutes upside down is good enough. And then we'll go back into the other room where our freezer is and the carboy that's sitting up ready to siphon into the bottles, and we'll watch that whole process. All these items are going to be listed in the description for purchase. They're all off of Amazon, so it's going to be easy for you if you want to purchase. I've found that they're the best economically, and I've had no issues with them so far, any of the items that I've used throughout this process. So I recommend any one of them, which goes from the bottles to the corks, to the cleaners, to the siphon, the crusher, the squeezer, juicer, the carboys. So all that stuff will be listed in the description for easy purchase if you want to continue. Okay, time to bottle. So as you can see, this is my 3-gallon carboy. It looks crystal clear, turned out very good. What I did do, and I haven't mentioned yet, is once I finished racking the individual three 1-gallon carboys into the 3-gallon carboy, there was some headroom. There was some space between the top of the carboy and the actual wine. And I want to get rid of that so there's no excess oxygen tampering with the wine. So what I did is I just took another bottle of Moscato and topped it off to fill up that gap to about an inch or two below the stopper. So let's go ahead and crack it open. Here it goes. A year of hard work coming to fruition right here. Okay, so I'm going to get this siphon going. Some juice in it. As much as I can. Might go a couple times to get it. Squeeze the air out, get some more wine. So now I'm going to push this in, which is going to get the siphon going. Push this down. There we go, we're off. So I just put my bottles back in to the original cases. This is a nice holding place for them. So now we don't cork these right away because they're exposed to air. There's dust in the air. There's who knows what stuff we can't see that we don't want in our wine. This is a bottle corker. This will be in the description, of course. So we're just going to take one at a time. Come out. Then when you open it to the top here, you can put your cork in this little cylinder, just like that. Rest this right on top of the bottle. It'll grab the side of the stem of the bottle. Give it some pressure. Boom. Corked. Now let's do that 14 more times. Okay. So all bottles are done. I get to sit there and look at it. Finally get to look at it. A year of caring for these grapes, picking them, fermenting them, clarifying them, and finally bottling them. Now, one last thing to do is to taste it. What I can say so far is it looks crystal clear. It's got a nice color to it. Something I would expect from a Moscato. And to see something like this from your own grapes is pretty amazing. It's very rewarding. But again, the question remains, does it taste good? So I'm going to bring this outside into the sunlight. I'm also going to pour that glass of wine from the leftovers in the carboy, and we'll do a taste test. Okay, so here it is, our final taste test. Our Moscato that we grew from our own grapes in our garden from last year, that we picked, crushed, fermented, loved, bottled, and finally get to do the fun part, which is drink it. So I made all 15 bottles, so I left a little bit at the very bottom. So this is literally the bottom of the barrel. So there's bound to be some sediment, even if I've clarified it multiple times, unless I filter it. And there is a little bit of sediment from this, but the bottle itself looks crystal clear. It looks like a really good Moscato. It's got the right color. I think it's going to be great, a great gift, and great to enjoy. So we're going to do our taste test here. I haven't even smelled it yet.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Smells very light and fruity.
Yeah.
That's great. Goes down smooth.
Not too sweet.
No, not at all. It's really good.
It makes me hungry. Makes me want to sit down and eat a meal and drink this. It just coats the entire palate, the whole tongue, all the way to the back. You can taste the flavors from the very front to the very back of your tongue. The sweet, the citrusy.
The aftertaste is like pleasant also.
Pleasant, mild, and kind of long lasting.
Leaves you wanting to go back for another sip.
So, thank you for watching. I hope this helped you in some way. I hope it may have motivated you to join me on this endeavor of making your own wine, as it's very rewarding to grow your own grapes, or even buy your own grapes, or buy your own grape juice and make your own wine at home. It's not hard to do, and there's something about being able to drink your own wine out of your own bottle that you bottled yourself that's rewarding, and giving that gift to someone, it's pretty special, and people appreciate it. So all the equipment I had in the video is going to be listed in the description section. It's all Amazon, all easy to get to, easy to buy, cheap, relatively, and everything on there, it's all prime and good quality. So thank you for watching. See you next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.